This is authentic American craft distilling that goes back 100 years. You can't make this up.
No.
You know, it's phenomenal.
This is great.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I'm your host, Jeff Zahrt. We're going to take you behind the scenes with the craft distillers who are pouring their heart and soul into crafting the next version of America's spirit. This is the Great American Whiskey Cookers. Whiskey history is filled with tales of moonshiners, but when you actually land at a distillery named after a real moonshiner, and this person was known for making square pot stills, well, you gotta take notice. We get the juice on Casey Jones from his grandson AJ and his wife Peg about this moonshiner and what they are making now. Welcome to this edition of the Great American Whiskey Cookers. We are here in Kentucky and we are at Casey Jones Distillery. Now, before I get going, before I get started, you can like us on Facebook, the YouTube channel, Instagram, obviously. You can go to our website, buy some merchandise, and you can become a subscriber on Patreon and a supporter of the show. We would really enjoy that and appreciate it. So, we are here, Casey Jones, and there's some history behind Casey Jones Distillery. But before we go too far, I want you guys to introduce who you are, what your role is, and what exactly you're doing here. So, Cody, let's start with you.
Yeah, so Cody Turner, I'm one of the partners and I guess officially titled COO here at Casey Jones Distillery, and I'm sure you're going to hear the same thing from the other two. We just literally do everything.
So my name is Peg Hayes, and I'm one of the founders. I'm also Arlen Casey Jones' wife. We have different last names for a lot of reasons, primarily because when we finally got married, I said I didn't mind changing my last name, but if I was going to change mine, then he probably should change his too and just pick out a new one for both of us, and that didn't happen. So I'm kind of, at this juncture, I call myself a factotum. I do a lot of everything. I do want to give Cody credit. He really is the marketing, sales, graphic, web. He manages a whole lot that AJ and I don't have our hands in, except to when he includes us because of management. So he does a fabulous job, and he's been stellar in getting us to this level. So I do accounting to a small degree. I do the payroll. I do compliance. I do events. I do all those things that are kind of exterior to the meat and bones of production and what have you. I don't do production.
So do you keep these two in line?
I keep us out of jail.
You keep us?
Yeah.
All right. I like it. AJ?
So official title, master distiller, of course, an owner of the business and founder. Peg and I, we first started this business together 2014, going on be our 10th year this year, November the 1st. At that time, we did everything from marketing all the way through. So that's basically what I do now, is all the manufacturing side and so forth. We still do, all of us still do a little bit of everything.
Sure. Now, there's history here. You have history to the namesake of this place, Casey Jones. So tell me about that and where that comes from in the lineage.
So Casey was my grandfather, and actually, a lot of people don't know this, but Casey was not his real name. His real name was Alfred. And the reason why he got the nickname Casey was when he did make his moonshine and sell it, he would only sell it by the case. So people would say, oh, that's that Case guy, that's that Casey guy. And it just developed into a nickname for him. So it stuck with him in his moonshining days and history. And he was a well-known still builder in this part of the western part of the state. He built from all over this western part of the state, but originally from land between the lakes.
And okay, so what time frame are we talking about when Casey was doing this?
From the 1930s all the way through the 1950s.
And Casey had, from what Cody was telling me earlier, Casey had a couple run-ins with the law.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that.
So the first time around, he captured a year at Mill Point Federal Penitentiary in the mountains of West Virginia. Second time, he caught 2 years before he finally gave up the illegal still building and moonshining. First time he got caught with a a still. The second time he got caught was with the still and the product. So
that's why maybe the increased sentence.
Increased sentence. But both places were at Mill Point Federal Penitentiary, which was a minimum security prison. They actually went out there and worked, and they worked up in the mountains working on the roads to the railroads to timber, and were able to draw a paycheck and send it home, you know. So it was kind of it was a unique, first of its kind prison. So,
and he became kind of known for this, right?
Yeah.
For building this kind of a still?
Every bit as much so, you know. And the times that he went and spent time in the pen for it, which we nicknamed that place Moonshine University, you know.
The original.
The original.
Original. People go in and, you know, when they came out, they knew about his square pot design because he's kind of proud of it, you know, after he started doing them, and they worked so well and people wanted them so many times.
I mean, it's not your typical...
No, he was known for the square still, and basically to tell you, the very first still he ever built was the very first still he ever saw. So as a young man, he was a coffin maker. So when he decided to take on building stills, he kind of, the similarities are there a lot, you know, between the square pot and the coffin still, what we call it sometimes, and it was a unique feature of how it worked. And I would say the other thing about it is he had used, like, they don't probably know this, but in construction you made your own mortar boxes, you know, and they were built in a rectangular, exactly the same shape as that still.
Mm-hmm.
And so possibly that had some influence in it, you know. And but at any rate, they were unique. They worked really well and fast. They were able to be taken apart in 3 pieces and easily carried into the woods and set up and ran, and then easily taken back out. And the reason why you wanted to be able to do that was convenience, but keep people from stealing your still, or make it less likely to get caught. I don't know if that it worked on the caught side because he got caught.
He got caught, yeah. Twice, right?
Yeah, twice.
Like,
And escape. It made it easier to escape because if you could run out with the condenser, which his condenser was its own very unique piece of that square pot distillation, that whole process was, but he put handles on everything, part of his coffin building learning. So if you notice, his square pot still has handles on everything. It's easy to carry in. You could yank that top off with the lead pipe and the condenser and get out, leave the box there. So there was a lot of other benefit to his style of still. And you could also hide in it if it was big enough.
So you go in and you set your mash up where you're going to set it up at. You wouldn't leave the still there. You would take the still with you, or you wouldn't bring it till it was ready to cook. Bring it in. It's easy for 2 guys to pack it into the woods. It's light. Handles on each side. One could carry the one side of the still and the line arm, and the other one could carry the condenser on one side of the still. So they could go ahead and set it up. But it was easy for them to do that and run it, to take it back, reset their mash up, and not have to worry about losing that still, because they were stolen a lot.
so did he build them for other people?
Oh yeah. I'm going to say he built well over 200-300 stills for other people to use.
That's a lot of still.
They were a lot, used a lot. He would travel sometimes and be gone for a couple weeks from home just to be able to still somewhere for somebody.
That's crazy.
Yeah. They also were made really low profile. I don't know if you noticed the old one we have up there, original one. And then when they took it apart, you could set them in the back of a wagon or something, you wouldn't even see them. Or in the back of a Model A. You'd never know they was back there. They could throw a cover over it and they could go anywhere with it. So,
That's crazy.
yeah, they weren't tall,
crazy.
There was a unique design that he had when he made his condensers, and people tried to copy that, but there was a lot of ones that were really bad made that didn't do as good a job.
Well, and you don't talk about the condenser that much to folks, but it's actually it's a huge invention at the time when people were really basically just using copper worms down in barrels, running water through them.
Copper coils.
Yeah.
His condenser is like 2 walls of copper and so much more cooling power to them, because you had a lot more copper surface that the water could touch and cool it. So ran really fast. Like gallon, 3.5 minutes.
Wow.
This is basically a double wall jacketed copper condenser. I mean, that's the same technology used today in copper condensers. So it's wild that he was doing this, about 100 years ago.
And you said, I mean, he was illiterate,
Yeah.
right? He didn't read or write, but he was an engineering marvel.
Mm-hmm. The man can build stuff.
From our earlier walkthrough, you showed us a brand new square pot still that's based off of Casey's design, and you're using it today,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. But you're using it to make your whiskey.
Yeah. So that still in particular, when we decided to do our expansion of, put in a hybrid still with a partial column, we also want to continue that square pot heritage, that we had. And rather than continue using one we did have, we wanted something that was heated by steam.
AJ built the one that we used for 10 years off of his granddad's square pot still. AJ built the square pot still that did all of our production.
And that was just recently retired, just a couple
March
years
of 23. March of 23.
So the one that's been built, the company that built the other one, when they decided to build this square one, they begged to build this still.
Really?
They basically begged to build it because their company, once they saw the design and did the drawings themselves and so forth, never built a square steel before, and they wanted to do that. And they saw how well he built the condenser and how it matches with modern times now. And they said he was ahead of his time. He was absolutely ahead of his time.
They were even, if you remember, they were even impressed with the angle of the lane arm back to the pot. Like,
Yeah.
all of it was just right. And these are folks that build thousands of pot stills and column stills and brewing equipment. And to have, world-class engineers confirm with us that Casey actually really knew what he was doing years and years and years and years ago.
The most important part was it made really good product. And it's hard to repeat the taste that you get off of that still and the big stills. It really is. So we've tried that, and it's been difficult.
Really?
It's been very difficult. Yep. I still do, I'm not running today, but I still do small batches in that thing just like we've done up at the top. 55-gallon drums fermenting, and just like they did in the old days when we do it, because the ratio of everything, it's just perfect. It works right. The taste is perfect, Peg was on the Board of Regents at Murray State, and she was traveling back and forth from Murray to home, and she stopped one day in Land Between the Lakes, and the still that we now have, the original one, Casey, was sitting in that visitor center and had been since I was a child. It had disappeared. It wasn't there no more. And so she started asking questions, and we started asking more questions about it. And eventually it took about a year, but we actually got them to give that back to us. So I blame that on her, because I'm a Jones, okay? I'm a Jones. Casey, like Casey. I can do just about anything. And if you give me a piece of equipment and you set it in my garage, what's going to happen? I'm going to use it. That's what's going to happen. So that's how we got started with it.
I didn't want to take any vacations to Mill Point Federal Penitentiary, so we decided that we would do it legally, and that's how we got started.
And that's in 2014, 2013-ish?
That was probably
12.
No, it was 2008. 7 or 8 when we got the still. Yeah, when we first.
So it took a while for you to replicate that still and build the one that you were using.
It took a little while, but it took a while for my interest to grow in using it, you know. I had it, displayed, talked about it, but the more I talked to people and the more things like the Moonshiner show came on TV, the more I got interested in doing all this. And so
also keep in mind that we're also like barrels at this point of our life. We're aging at an accelerated pace. And we had another business for almost 40 years and had an opportunity to get out of that and do okay doing that. So it was kind of like it dovetailed, like, so here's the opportunity. And when the still came along and he's got interest in it, what does a man with a still want to do? He wants to make product. So we started out and the building was just 2 garage, like a double door garage, and then you can see where we've gotten from there.
So tell me, how do people find you? Where do they locate you? How do they get in touch with you? How do they do that?
Yeah, I mean, the short of it is we're everywhere. And I mean that. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on TikTok. We're on X. We're everywhere. So obviously our website, newsletter as well.
And the website address
is CaseyJonesDistillery.com. Yeah.
CASEY Jones.
CaseyJonesDistillery.com. Guys, phenomenal story. I absolutely love this. Hey, you can find us at thegreatamericanwhiskeycookers.com, Facebook, Instagram. Go to YouTube, like our videos, share, and we would really appreciate it. If you really want to step up your support, go to our Patreon page and become a member. We would really appreciate it. Until next time, if you can't be good at it. See ya.